We warned them. Touch a human child, face total annihilation. Part 1. The Treaty of Stars. The observation deck of the Galactic Confederation Embassy offered a breathtaking view of Earth's gleaming orbital stations against the backdrop of humanity's blue homeworld. Ambassador Elena Reyes stood silently, her diplomatic uniform crisp despite the 18-hour negotiation that had just concluded. She watched as the alien delegation filed into their shuttle, their many-limbed forms moving with what she had learned to recognize as satisfaction. "They have no idea what they just agreed to," she said quietly to the man standing beside her. Fleet Commander Jackson Way, his military posture unwavering even after the marathon session, gave a slight nod. "That's precisely the point, Madam Ambassador." The Treaty of Stars had taken 2 Earth years to negotiate. Humanity, less than 50 years into its faster-than-light era, had been discovered by the Galactic Confederation. 17 species united under principles of trade, mutual defense, and shared technological advancement. The Confederation had extended a tentative invitation to Earth, conditional upon acceptance of their standard treaty terms. All had proceeded according to diplomatic norms until the final day, when Elena had introduced what would come to be known as the Child Protection Clause. The aliens had found it puzzling but ultimately inconsequential, a peculiarity of a young species to specifically protect their immature members in formal treaties. Article 17, Section 8, Elena recited from memory. "Any deliberate harm to human children by any Confederation member species shall constitute an immediate act of war against all of humanity, exempted from standard conflict resolution protocols." Commander Way's eyes remained fixed on the departing alien shuttle. The Corvashi representative seemed particularly dismissive. "They think we're being primitive and overly sentimental," Elena replied. "They cannot comprehend why we would single out one demographic for special protection when their treaties typically cover entire species." "Cultural blindness," Way said. "None of their species evolved with our extended childhood development period or parental bonding instincts, which is precisely why they don't understand that this isn't diplomacy, it's a warning." The Treaty of Stars was ratified 3 months later, and humanity entered the galactic community with a mixture of enthusiasm and caution. Earth's unified government, forged in the aftermath of the resource wars a century earlier, maintained a careful balance between openness to alien cultures and protection of human interests. 5 years passed. Humanity's first extrasolar colony thrived on Proxima Centauri, named New Eden by its 15,000 inhabitants. Through the alien technology of atmospheric processors, what had once been a barren, tidally locked world now supported a growing human settlement in its temperate zone. Dr. Maya Henderson watched from the primary school's observation deck as children played in the central plaza below. Even after 3 years as New Eden's chief education administrator, the sight still filled her with wonder. Human children laughing beneath an alien sun, their games unfolding against a backdrop of architecture that blended Earth design with Confederation material science. Education Administrator Henderson. A mechanically translated voice called behind her. Maya turned to see Ambassador Kirvex, the Corvashi representative to the colony. Despite years of interaction, the tall, chitinous being with compound eyes and 4 upper limbs still struck her as unsettlingly alien. "Ambassador," she greeted with a practiced smile. "I wasn't expecting you today. Observation of developmental practices continues to interest our sociological division." Kirvex replied, mandibles clicking softly. "Your species devotes extraordinary resources to non-productive members." Maya had learned to overlook such comments. The Corvashi reproduced in vast numbers, with minimal parental investment in their offspring. Concepts like childhood education and nurturing were foreign to their highly stratified society. "We see it as an investment," she explained. "Every child carries potential that benefits our entire species when properly cultivated." "Inefficient," Kirvex commented, compound eyes reflecting fragmented images of the children below. "But fascinating." As they spoke, A flash of movement caught Maya's attention. 3 unfamiliar Corvashi had entered the plaza, moving with purpose toward a group of younger children. Something about their movement pattern triggered an instinctive alarm in Maya's mind. "Are those diplomats from your delegation?" she asked sharply. Hirvex's posture changed subtly. "Scientific observers. They have authorization." But Maya was already moving toward the emergency communication panel. "Security alert in the central plaza," she said clearly into the system. "Unauthorized interaction with colony children." Below, one of the Corvashi had reached the children and appeared to be scanning them with an unrecognized device. A colonial security officer approached the group, hand resting on his stunner. "Your security measures are unnecessary," Hirvex stated. "This is standard Confederation biological sampling." Maya turned to face the ambassador, her expression hardening. "Not with our children, it isn't, and not without parental consent and administrative oversight." The incident was contained quickly. The Corvashi observers were escorted from the plaza, their scanning devices confiscated. Formal protests were filed through diplomatic channels. The Confederation Council issued a perfunctory apology for the cultural misunderstanding. But something had changed. In the following weeks, colonial parents reported seeing unfamiliar alien vessels near the outlying settlements. Security footage captured Corvashi observers watching children's routines with unsettling intensity. And then, 43 days after the plaza incident, the first child disappeared. The emergency council chamber in New Eden's administrative tower was filled to capacity. Colonial Governor Thomas Chen stood at the central podium, his face lined with exhaustion. On the display wall behind him, 5 children's faces stared out at the assembled officials. 5 disappearances in 17 days, he stated grimly. All children between the ages of 6 and 12. All last seen near the colony boundaries. All near areas with reported Corvashi activity. Commander Wei, dispatched from Earth at the first disappearance, studied the timeline displayed on his tablet. Colonial security has found no physical evidence linking the Corvashi to the disappearances. Nothing conclusive, admitted Security Chief Ramirez. But the pattern is clear. Every disappearance occurred within 24 hours of reported Corvashi vessels in the area. Ambassador Elena Reyes, who had arrived on the same military transport as Wei, rose from her seat. The Confederation Council continues to deny any involvement. They suggest that predatory indigenous life forms may be responsible. Bullshit, Dr. Henderson snapped, her academic composure cracking. There are no indigenous predators large enough to take a human child without leaving evidence, and the timing with Corvashi appearances cannot be coincidental. Governor Chen nodded grimly. We've increased security throughout the colony. No child goes outdoors without adult supervision and proximity trackers. But we need answers, and we need those children back. Have we implemented the treaty contingency? One official asked quietly. The room fell silent. The treaty contingency was the military protocol developed after the signing of the Child Protection Clause, a predetermined response should any Confederation species ever violate that sacred line. Commander Wei's voice was steady when he answered. Earth Command has authorized preliminary measures. The ECS Defender has been deployed to the Proxima Centauri system. 3 additional battle carriers are on standby. But we need proof, Ambassador Rice cautioned. Absolute, incontrovertible proof. If we invoke Article 17, we are declaring war not just on the Corvashi, but potentially positioning ourselves against the entire Confederation. Then we get proof, Wei said, his eyes cold. And while we search, we prepare. Because if those children have been harmed, the galaxy is about to learn exactly what that treaty clause means. As if in answer to his words, every communication device in the room signaled simultaneously. Governor Chen checked his tablet, his face draining of color. There's been another abduction, he announced, his voice hollow. Twins, Marcus and Maya Santiago, 8 years old, taken from their garden while their mother was inside answering a call. Dr. Henderson covered her mouth, stifling a sob. Commander Wei stood up, his decision made. Implement full military protocol. I want orbital defenses activated and all civilian ships grounded. Ambassador Reyes, please inform Earth Command that we're moving to treaty contingency status yellow. As the officials dispersed to their duties, Y moved to the window overlooking the colony. In the distance, the dome of the primary school gleamed in the alien sunlight. 7 children were missing now. 7 human children taken from the protection of their families and community. If the Corvashi or any other Confederation species were responsible, they were about to learn the terrible mistake they had made. Humanity had included that treaty clause for a reason, not as a diplomatic formality, but as the most solemn warning they could give to the galaxy. Touch our children and face extinction. The breaking point. Commander Wei stood in the tactical center of the ECS Defender, Earth's most advanced battleship, as it maintained geosynchronous orbit above New Eden. The holographic display showed a detailed map of the colony and surrounding territories, with 7 red markers indicating the last known locations of the missing children. Status report, he ordered, his voice calm despite the tension permeating the bridge. Lieutenant Commander Sophia Dias stepped forward. Orbital defense grid is fully operational, sir. Colony security forces have established a 3-kilometer perimeter around all settlements. No unauthorized vessels have been detected in the system for the past 12 hours. We nodded. And the surveillance data. Analysis complete, sir. Dias transferred the information to the main display. We've compiled tracking data from all Corvashi vessels observed near the colony over the past 3 months. There's a clear pattern. The display showed a heat map of alien vessel movements, with distinct concentrations around the abduction sites. More tellingly, a single trajectory appeared repeatedly, a course leading away from the colony toward the outer reaches of the system. They're not even trying to hide it, Wei observed. No, sir, Dias agreed. This particular vector appears after every abduction event. It leads to the 3rd moon of the gas giant. Wei studied the data. The moon, designated PCBII, was a small icy satellite with no official Confederation presence. According to surveys, it contained no valuable resources or strategic significance. Perfect for a covert operation, he murmured. Prepare a stealth insertion team. I want our best operators equipped for hostile conditions and potential extraction of human civilians. Sir, Dias hesitated. Confederation treaties prohibit military operations on unclaimed celestial bodies without prior notification. Wei's expression hardened. Lieutenant Commander, if Confederation species have abducted human children, they have already violated Article 17. We are operating under treaty contingency protocols now. Yes, sir. Team will be ready in 30 minutes. As Dias departed to organize the mission, Wei's secure communication terminal signaled an incoming transmission from Earth. Admiral Helena Vargas, head of Earth Defense Command, appeared on screen. Commander, she greeted him grimly. I've reviewed your preliminary findings. The evidence is compelling but still circumstantial. We're preparing a reconnaissance mission to the 3rd moon, Wei replied. If the Corvashi are holding those children there, we'll find them. Admiral Vargas nodded. The Security Council has authorized full implementation of treaty contingency measures. The 3rd and 5th battle groups are moving into position at the edge of the Sol system, ready to deploy through the Proxima jump gate if needed. Wei felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. The entire human military had been restructured after first contact, with much of its capabilities hidden from Confederation observers. If those battle groups were being mobilized, Earth was preparing for full-scale war. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Admiral. Let's hope, Vargas agreed, though her tone suggested she believed otherwise. But, Commander, if those children have been harmed, she didn't need to finish the sentence. I understand, Admiral. Why out? 6 hours later, the stealth insertion craft approached PCBII, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to conventional sensors. Inside, Lieutenant Amara Okafor led a team of 8 special operations personnel, each equipped with the most advanced combat systems in humanity's arsenal, technologies developed in secret, far from the prying eyes of Confederation observers. Sensors detecting an artificial structure on the far side of the ridge, the pilot reported. Definitely not natural formation. Lieutenant Okafor studied the readouts. Any signs of life? Multiple signatures, mixed readings, but several register as human. Small human. A ripple of tension passed through the cabin. These soldiers had all volunteered specifically for this mission, driven by the same protective instinct that had led humanity to include the Child Protection Clause in the Treaty of Stars. Set us down 2 kilometers from the structure, Okafor ordered. We'll approach on foot to minimize detection risk. The insertion craft landed silently on the icy surface. As the team deployed, the barren landscape stretched before them, a desolate expanse of frozen nitrogen and methane under a starlit sky dominated by the looming gas giant. Atmospheric readings confirm temporary life support is required, Sergeant Kim noted. Temperature -180°C. The team activated their environmental systems and began the approach, moving with practiced precision across the alien terrain. As they crested the ridge, the structure came into view, a low, dome-shaped facility partially embedded in the moon's surface. No external markings identified its purpose or ownership. 3 entry points, Okafor observed through enhanced optics. Minimal external security. They weren't expecting visitors. Or they're overconfident, Kim suggested. The Confederation has no concept of our stealth capabilities. Okafor designated approach vectors. Team 1 with me through the main entrance. Team 2, secure the auxiliary access. Weapons on stun settings unless directly threatened. Primary objective is confirmation and documentation of human presence. Secondary objective is assessment for potential extraction. The teams moved into position with methodical discipline. The facility's outer doors yielded easily to Earth's classified electronic warfare systems, another technology kept hidden from Confederation knowledge. Inside, the stark corridors were lit with the blue-green illumination preferred by Corvashi physiology. The team advanced cautiously, their helmet sensors scanning for life signs. Movement ahead, Kim whispered over the tactical channel. 2 Corvashi, approaching from the left junction. Okafor signaled her team to hold position. As the aliens rounded the corner, they froze momentarily at the sight of the human soldiers before reaching for their communication devices. 2 precise shots from stun weapons dropped them before any alarm could be raised. Secure them and continue, Okafor ordered. Deeper into the facility, the team encountered a sealed doorway with enhanced security measures. While their specialists worked to bypass the locks, Okafor's sensors detected human life signs beyond. Multiple human signatures confirmed, she reported to the defender. Juvenile physiological patterns. We found them, Commander. The lock yielded, and the door slid open to reveal a laboratory space filled with medical equipment and monitoring stations. And there, in transparent containment chambers along the far wall, were the missing children of New Eden. Okafor felt a surge of cold fury as she approached the nearest chamber. Inside, a young boy floated in a clear solution, breathing through an artificial apparatus, his small body connected to monitoring devices. His eyes were open but unfocused, suggesting sedation. Similar chambers held the other children, all alive, but all subjected to some form of biological study. Screens displayed their vital signs alongside data in Corvashi scientific notation. Document everything, Okafor instructed her team, her voice tight with controlled rage. Every detail, every piece of equipment, every data readout. As her soldiers methodically recorded the evidence, 3 Corvashi scientists entered from an adjoining room. They froze at the sight of the armed humans, their compound eyes widening in what Okafor had learned to recognize as surprise. You have violated restricted Confederation research space, one of them stated in mechanically translated standard. Departure is required immediately. Sergeant Kim aimed his weapon at the alien's center mass. You have abducted human children. Surrender now. The lead Corvashi made a clicking sound that the translator didn't process. These specimens were acquired through proper scientific channels. The Biological Research Covenant permits. These are not specimens. Okafor cut in, her voice deadly calm. These are human children, protected explicitly under Article 17 of the Treaty of Stars. You have committed an act of war against humanity. Impossible, the Corvashi scientist replied. The Confederation Council authorized this research project. The human genetic adaptability factor is of significant scientific interest. Okafor signaled her team to secure the Corvashi researchers. Transmit all data to the Defender, she ordered, and inform Commander Wei that we have confirmation. Absolute confirmation. The Confederation Council chamber on Nexus Station hummed with tense conversation as representatives from 17 species discussed the human allegations. Ambassador Elena Reyes stood before them, her diplomatic demeanor masking the fury that burned within her. On the massive display behind her, images from the Moon facility played in excruciating detail, human children suspended in experimental chambers. Corvashi scientists methodically documenting their biological responses, data logs showing weeks of invasive testing. These actions constitute a direct violation of Article 17 of the Treaty of Stars, Rice stated, her voice carrying throughout the chamber. The abduction and experimentation upon human children represents an act of war against humanity. Grand Arbiter 6-4, the ancient Meldari who led the council, raised a slender appendage. The Confederation deeply regrets this unauthorized research initiative. The Corvashi Biological Division acted without council sanction. That is false, Rice countered, activating another section of her presentation. Our operatives recovered authorization codes linked directly to Council Research Directive 87A. This was not rogue action, but sanctioned Confederation research. Murmurs spread through the chamber as representatives conferred with their delegations. The Corvashi ambassador rose on his hind limbs. Humans exaggerate the significance of this incident, he stated. These immature specimens were being studied humanely, with intention of return once research concluded. No permanent harm was intended. Rhea's expression didn't change, but those who knew her well recognized the dangerous glint in her eyes. Ambassador, your species' failure to understand is precisely why the Child Protection Clause exists. Let me be absolutely clear. Humanity considers these actions an unforgivable transgression, and a formal state of war now exists between Earth and any Confederation entity involved in this atrocity. Grand Arbiter 6-4 made a placating gesture. Surely this can be resolved through standard conflict resolution protocols. The children will be returned immediately, and responsible parties held accountable. You misunderstand, Grand Arbiter, Rise replied. Article 17, which all council members signed, explicitly exempts violations involving human children from standard resolution protocols. The children are already being recovered by human forces. As for resolution, she paused, meeting the gaze of each council member. Humanity's response has already begun. As if on cue, emergency alerts flashed across the council's communication systems. The Meldari coordinator's voice rang out with uncharacteristic urgency. Multiple unidentified warships have entered Corvashi space. Defense systems at outposts K7 and K9 have gone offline. We're receiving reports of precision strikes against Corvashi military installations throughout their territory. The Corvashi ambassador's compound eyes reflected chaotic patterns of alarm. This is impossible. Human military capability is cataloged and monitored. They possess no such strike capacity. Reyes allowed herself a cold smile. The Confederation cataloged what we allowed you to see, Ambassador. Humanity has spent the last 7 years developing technologies and capabilities we chose not to share, specifically in preparation for any violation of Article 17. On screens throughout the chamber, footage began streaming in from Corvashi space. Massive human warships unlike any the Confederation had documented, deploying weapons technologies that overwhelmed the aliens' most advanced defenses. What you are witnessing, Rice continued, is only the first phase of humanity's response. The Treaty of Stars was not merely a diplomatic document, it was a warning. You were told, in explicit terms, that harming our children would result in unrestricted warfare. You chose not to believe us. Grand Arbiter 6-4 rose from his ceremonial seat, all pretense of calm abandoned. Ambassador Rice, the Confederation pleads for immediate ceasefire negotiations, whatever reparations humanity demands. The time for negotiation passed the moment the first child was taken, Rice interrupted. Now, the Corvashi and the Confederation will learn why humanity considers its children sacred. As pandemonium erupted in the council chamber, Rice gathered her materials and turned to leave. The message had been delivered. Now the galaxy would witness the consequences of ignoring humanity's most solemn warning. A galaxy learns respect. The observation deck of the ECS Retribution provided a panoramic view of the Corvashi homeworld, a blue-green sphere wrapped partially in the specialized energy barrier the human forces had established in orbit. Admiral Helena Vargas stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her weathered face reflecting the grim satisfaction of a military commander whose forces had achieved total strategic superiority in just 14 days of conflict. Status report, she requested of the officer who had joined her. Commander Wei consulted his datapad. Operation Child's Shield is proceeding as planned, Admiral. 97% of Corvashi military assets have been neutralized. Their remaining battle groups have retreated to defensive positions around their colony worlds. The containment field around their homeworld is stable, allowing us to control all planetary access. Casualties. Minimal on our side. 17 confirmed KIA, 42 wounded. Corvashi military casualties estimated at 12,000, though their hierarchical command structure collapsed so quickly that many of their forces never engage. Vargas nodded. And the children? Wei's expression softened slightly. All 7 have been recovered and are receiving treatment aboard the medical ship Hippocrates. Dr. Patel reports that while they show signs of trauma and some physiological alterations from the experiments, all are expected to make full recoveries. Thank God for small mercies, Vargas murmured. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Ambassador Reyes, accompanied by a delegation that included representatives from 5 Confederation species, none of them Corvashi. Admiral Vargas, Reyes greeted her. May I present Grand Arbiter 6-4 of the Confederation Council, along with representatives from the Meldari, Treskin, Voth, Nafri, and Zenith delegations. Vargas acknowledged them with a formal nod, noting the mixture of caution and awe in their expressions as they took in the command deck of humanity's flagship, a vessel whose existence had been unknown to the Confederation until 2 weeks ago. Grand Arbiter 6-4 stepped forward. The ancient Meldari's translucent body pulsed with the bioluminescent patterns that indicated extreme emotional stress in his species. Admiral, he began, his translator rendering his harmonic speech into standard. The Confederation Council extends its most profound apologies for the criminal actions taken against human offspring. We come seeking terms for cessation of hostilities. Vargas regarded him coolly. The terms are non-negotiable, Grand Arbiter. Ambassador Reyes will provide the complete list, but the essentials are these. The Corvashi Biological Division will be dismantled entirely. All research derived from experiments on human children will be destroyed. The Corvashi government will acknowledge their violation of Article 17 and accept the consequences, including significant reparations to the affected families and the colony of New Eden. The Treskin representative, a feathered humanoid with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, chirped anxiously. And what of the Corvashi people? 17 billion souls reside on their homeworld, now imprisoned beneath your energy barrier. They are not prisoners, Vargas clarified. The barrier allows controlled passage of food, medical supplies, and other essentials. Its purpose is to prevent military mobilization while terms are negotiated. Once agreements are finalized and verified, it will be removed. Your species has demonstrated unexpected capabilities, the Voth representative observed, 8-fingered hands moving in the nervous pattern characteristic of his species. The Confederation's assessment of human military technology appears to have been significantly inaccurate. Wei exchanged a glance with Reyes before responding. That was by design. Humanity entered the galactic community with hopes for peaceful cooperation, but we were not naive. While sharing many technologies openly, we maintained a classified development program, specifically focused on defensive and offensive systems that could protect our interests if diplomacy failed. A deception, Grand Arbiter Zixspor noted. A precaution, Reyes countered, one that proved necessary. Had the Confederation truly understood the meaning and intent of Article 17, this conflict would never have occurred. The Nafri representative, whose crystalline exoskeleton refracted light in complex patterns, leaned forward. What the ambassador suggests is correct. Our species have fundamentally misunderstood yours. The specific protection of immature humans seemed ceremonial. We did not comprehend the depth of neurological and cultural programming that drives your species to protect its young. Not programming, Wei corrected. Evolution and values. Human children require years of protection and nurturing to reach maturity. Our entire civilization is structured around their safety and development. When we made protection of our children a cornerstone of our treaty, we were telling you who we are at our most fundamental level. Admiral Vargas activated a holographic display showing the recovered children, now safely aboard the medical ship, being reunited with their families. This is why we fight. This is why we developed technologies in secret, built ships you never detected, and prepared for a war we hoped would never come. Because for humans, there is no greater crime than harming a child. Grand Arbiter Zixspor's bioluminescence shifted to patterns indicating deep contemplation. The Confederation has existed for 12,000 years. In that time, we have encountered hundreds of species, but none quite like humanity. Your devotion to your young is illuminating. It explains much about your art, your social structures, your decision-making. And now it explains our response to the Corvashi, Reyes added quietly. The delegation was escorted to a conference room to review the detailed terms, leaving Vargas and Wei alone on the observation deck once more. Below them, the Corvashi homeworld continued its rotation, its inhabitants now aware of how severely they had misjudged their newest galactic neighbors. Do you think they understand now? Wei asked, gazing at the planet below. They're beginning to, Vargas replied. Understanding doesn't come easily across species barriers, but fear is universal, and right now, every species in the Confederation fears humanity. Fear isn't the ideal foundation for peace. No, but respect is. And they're learning that too. 3 months later, the central plaza of New Eden Colony was filled with humanity and representatives from across the Confederation. A memorial had been erected, a simple sculpture of 7 children holding hands in a circle, their faces turned upward toward the stars. Beneath it, an inscription in multiple languages. For the children of New Eden who endured, and as a reminder that humanity will always protect its own. Dr. Maya Henderson stood with the Santiago twins, now recovered from their ordeal and gradually returning to normal life. The physical effects of the Corvashi experiments had been reversed by Earth's medical technology, though the psychological healing would take longer. Do you like it? She asked them gently, nodding toward the memorial. Marcus, the more outspoken of the twins, nodded. It's cool. Mom says it's so nobody ever forgets what happened. That's right, Maya confirmed, and so that everyone remembers how brave you all were. Maya Santiago, the girl's namesake, looked up at the alien dignitaries gathered nearby. Are they still mad at us? Dr. Henderson followed her gaze to where Ambassador Reyes stood with representatives from 12 Confederation species. No, sweetheart, they're not mad. They're learning. Indeed, the Galactic Confederation had undergone significant changes in the aftermath of what historians would later call the Child's Shield conflict. The Corvashi government had been reorganized under Confederation supervision. More importantly, the Council had adopted the Terran Protocol, a new set of interspecies guidelines specifically addressing the protection of juvenile members of all sentient species. Commander Wei, recently promoted to Fleet Admiral, joined them at the memorial. He wore his dress uniform, medals gleaming in the Proxima sunlight. "How are our brave explorers today?" he asked, crouching to eye level with the twins. "Good," Marcus replied. "We're going back to regular school next week." "Excellent news," Wei smiled. "Your teachers have missed you." As the children were called away by their parents, Wei stood beside Dr. Henderson, watching the dedication ceremony preparations. The Confederation Science Council is implementing sweeping changes to their biological research protocols, he informed her. Ambassador Reyes says they've specifically prohibited any experimentation on juvenile members of any species without parental consent and ethical oversight. Progress, Henderson observed, though it took a show of force to achieve it. Sometimes that's the only language that translates clearly across cultures. Wei's expression grew thoughtful. "The Zenith representative told me something interesting yesterday. Apparently, several